which is kind of the more sturdy shaped glass. And that's generally kind of how you would pair the wine to the glass. More feminine, more delicate wines with a delicate bouquet, are going to be in that kind of that balloon shape because you want to really accentuate the aromatics. Sturdier wines like Cabernet Sauvignon or Bordeaux are going to go into the Bordeaux glass. And it all has to. There's a lot of actually science behind it, but if you go to a region, so if you go to Bordeaux and you order a bottle of Bordeaux in Bordeaux, this is the glass that you're going to receive it in.
Now, guys, Chris did not call you feminine. He called the glasses feminine, okay? So let's just pick up on that point right off the bat. The wine itself, though, the more this opens, the richer it becomes, the more flavorful. When I first tasted this, you get more of a raspberry nuance to this, but let it develop and open over about an hour, hour and a half. Cherry came through on this. We touched base. Cola was another flavor. And then all of a sudden I got this toasty, like oak flavor from the barrels themselves. It was just truly an amazing wine because what you're tasting right now isn't actually doing it justice from another 2 hours from now, because this is just one of the most exquisite Pinot Noirs I've ever tried in a long time.
You swish it around your mouth?
Absolutely. Keep it all on the front part of your mouth, which is another aspect we should get into. How should you actually taste the wine and actually infuse air? Could you please show us a demonstration, Chris?
Well, I mean,
what does that actually do?
Yeah.
Because you're infusing air. It's almost the same as when you're passing wine through an aerator into a decanter. Am I right?
Correct.
But with your breath that you're taking in, you're actually developing more of the fruit characteristics of the wine itself.
Right. So, I mean, aerating wine anyway is going to, as soon as wine touches oxygen, touches the air, it's going to start to change.
Right.
Because oxygen reacts with enzymes in the wine, and wine, especially handmade wine like this, is alive, truly alive. So introducing oxygen will change the flavor, and that's really the pedigree of a great wine. Is every time you taste it, every time you smell it, you want to smell something different. We do in the trade here is first we'll swirl the wine to introduce the air to it, to kind of open up the bouquet. You're checking color, you're looking at actually the outside of the wine. They call it rim variation. That give you little hints on how old the wine is. When you're smelling it, you're looking for different
Fruit notes and
notes, non-fruit notes, earth notes. You're kind of getting a sense of how much alcohol is in the wine, kind of give you an idea of where it's from too. And when you're tasting it,
which is my favorite part, by the way. How about you, Chris? Same?
You bring air into your mouth as you're tasting it, so you can actually aerate the wine within your mouth, and you're going to give it everything that it deserves, and you really taste everything that's going on there.
All right, moving along to our next wine, which is going to be, Chris?
That's the Grassi Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay, let's showcase to the folks, first of all, what a decanter is and where its roots actually stem from.
Well, decanters, there's two real main reasons, in my opinion, why you use decanters. Number one, in older wines that throw sediment in the bottom of the bottle, you want to decant the wine out and leave the sediment in the bottle, so you don't ingest that. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just it's unpleasant to have those on your palate. Or the main reason, which I think is to really again introduce air to the wine, which again gets things going, gets the flavors changing.
Heavily sedimented wines overall just means they're not filtered. They're just racked from the barrels to the bottles. They want to actually uphold all the body and chewiness of the wine itself. They don't want to change the complexity of the wine by filtering it, because in a sense you're removing a lot of that wine structure. I love nice, rich, chewy, tannic wines that are definitely unfiltered and unfined. You actually want to keep the hose line in your barrel at about 1 inch or 2, but that's still going to actually absorb everything off the bottle. And like I said again, folks, there's nothing wrong with when you open up a bottle, you're actually going to see like a heavier paste on the cork itself. And cork is your basic guideline to show you what kind of fruit characteristics are in the wine that you're about to drink. When we go, actually more of the if you take a look at the cork, this has more like a cherry, fruit-driven wine to more of like a black fruit, because has more hues of like a lighter red, and this is more like a blackcurrant or blackberry. So you're going to get more of those fruits in this cork or wine as opposed to this. An aerator, okay? This is also what people ask for. Has a screen in there, okay? If you guys don't like an unfiltered wine, just put this over the rim of your decanter itself. Pour the whole bottle through this. This is actually going to infuse air. There are 2 ports on the side of this aerator that help infuse air into the wine. In effect, they say it's like it's open already for about an hour. I generally like to pass it through, knowing some of my guests don't like all the sediment, residue on the bottom of their glass or in their glass. It turns them off a little. To me, it doesn't bother me because I think it's just beautiful. But what you want to do after you finish pouring it through this, just lift up and you'll actually see sediment on the stainless strainer itself. But afterwards, I still like to leave that wine in the decanter for about an hour.
It's younger wines that, haven't thrown sediment and they need to really introduce air quickly, because that's really how you're going to enjoy that wine. That's what I would do. A wine like this, I wouldn't. I still decant slowly, because, so you're doing 2 things. You're leaving any sediment that might be in the bottom of the bottle, in the neck of the bottle, and you're introducing air.
And where is the cab from?
This is the Grassi Napa Cab 2007 vintage overall. I basically tell everybody all the time, I believe 2007 vintage from California was probably the vintage of the century. I have yet to be proved wrong. Everybody that tries to come in and tell me that 07 wasn't great, I kind of prove wrong otherwise. I just think it's one of those classical growing vintages. It was just monotone, beautiful growing weather. I think it was a late harvest pick also. Mid-October to late October, some of the bigger vineyards were still picking grapes. So I think overall it was one of the best vintages to date. You may disagree with me, Chris, but you have that right.
All right, so this is 2007 Grassi, made by Mark Grassi, a true family operation. Mark Grassi and his wife and his daughter, they produce the wine and they also sell it. Mark Grassi now makes the wine. Peter Franis, actually, you may be familiar with him, made the first few vintages. Very small family-run winery. Their vineyards are in Atlas Peak, which is a sub-appellation of Napa Valley. And mountain fruit in Napa, in my opinion, is some of the best stuff. Because
Now,
again,
why is that? Because that's what, when I start telling everybody the difference of higher elevation fruit to basic low valley fruit, why is that so iconic in the winemaking itself?
2 things. With elevation, you get moderation in temperature. It's a very warm climate in Napa Valley. So you're going to get cooler nights, which retains acidity and allows the grapes to ripen evenly, and actually ripen. It takes them longer to ripen because of that, and that's actually a good thing. Because the tannins, like Marco was talking about before, become physically ripe at the same time as the sugar. A lot of times in Napa, down in the valley floor where it's warmer, the sugar will spike out before the grapes are what we call physiologically ripe. So you're going to get like all this big alcohol and no structure to the wine because you get a lot of sugar, but the tannins aren't developed. So yeah, so he started this. The first vintage was 2005, and this is really one of his best ones to date.
I think the most case production on some of the real boutique wines is 3,000 cases. I showcased the Donati Cabernet and the Claret in the past 2 weeks. They only make about 1,800 cases. We did some of the Clay House series. They only made about 236 packs. So a lot of the wines that I deal with also, because every time I call Chris and I go, Chris, I need more of this Pinot Noir. I need more of this Cab. He goes, Mark, I wish I had about another 500 cases of this. It's totally out. He'll save some for me, knowing that I'm going to want it in another week. Thank God he looks out for me, just like a lot of my other guys do. And that's why, Chris and I have a good relationship with the wines itself, because any little insight to the wine, he'll actually come in, immediately, because my door is always open. All right, Chris, we just did the Grassi Cab, which is a beautiful Cabernet from Napa. Now what do we have next on our lineup here?
I think we're going to take a flight over to Tuscany now.
All right.
Southern Tuscany, actually, the Maremma district of Tuscany, which is southwestern portion of the region.